It was the early morning of February 3, 2003 in Los Angeles. A black Mercedes climbed up the quiet hill to a massive mansion known as the Pyrenees Castle. Inside the car was a woman who had once been part of the Hollywood spotlight. By her side was one of the most famous names in the music industry. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, they stepped inside the house. The driver, Adriano Duzza, stayed outside waiting in the car. For a while, everything seemed calm. The night was silent. The mansion was still. But just before dawn, that silence was broken. A single sharp sound echoed from inside. Something that felt like a gunshot. Minutes later, the front door opened. Phil Spector appeared, holding a gun in his hand. What had just happened inside the castle would soon shock the world. It would change both of their lives forever. If you're a fan of true crime and criminal investigations, you won't want to miss our new book. It is called The Ultimate Book of Serial Killers. It features 180 files of the world's most notorious murderers. It is now available on Amazon. You can also purchase the PDF version directly from our website for instant download. You'll find the link in the video description and in a pinned comment. Now, let's dive into today's case. Lana Clarkson was born on April 5, 1962 in Long Beach. Long Beach is a coastal city in Southern California. She was the daughter of Donna and James Clarkson. She grew up with two siblings, Jesse and Fawn. Lana's childhood years were spent in Sonoma County. This region is known for its rolling hills, open meadows, and endless vineyards. It is the heart of California's wine country. Surrounded by nature, she experienced a childhood that mixed small-town warmth with ambition. She was someone who always dreamed bigger. But tragedy struck early in her life. Lana lost her father while still very young. The grief weighed heavily on her family. Christmas of 1978 was especially painful. Soon after, the Clarksons decided to move to Los Angeles. By that time, Lana had finished high school. Her passion for the arts was clear. She didn't just want a job. She wanted a life on stage and screen. She was tall, striking, and naturally charismatic. She seemed made for the entertainment world. She was nearly 6 feet tall. She had long legs, blonde hair, and clear eyes. She carried the kind of presence that drew people in. Those close to her described her as adventurous. They described her as warm. They described her as free-spirited. By the early 1980s, Lana was determined to carve out a career. She wanted to act and model. She began appearing in television and film. She often worked as an extra in smaller productions. It was a humble start. But it was also the beginning of a path she believed in. During this same period, she also gave her time to charity. In 1980, she became a volunteer with Project Angel Food. This organization delivered meals to people living with HIV in Los Angeles. At a time when the disease was highly stigmatized, Lana showed no fear. Helping others was as much a part of her identity as acting. Her official acting debut came in 1982. She landed a small role in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. This was a coming-of-age comedy that would become iconic. She played the wife of a science teacher. It was her first time with lines on screen. The following year, in 1983, she appeared in Scarface. She shared a scene with Michelle Pfeiffer. Though brief, it was a moment any aspiring actress would treasure. That same year she starred in Deathstalker. This was a fantasy film that gained a cult following. But it was in 1985 that Lana Clarkson secured her most memorable role. In Barbarian Queen, she played the warrior Athea. Athea was a strong and fearless heroine. She fought with both power and sensuality. The film quickly became a cult classic. Her performance made her a recognizable figure. She was famous among fans of fantasy and B movies. Later roles included the sci-fi film Blind Date. This was directed by Nico Mastorakis. She had smaller parts in Amazon Women on the Moon in 1987. Beyond film, Lana's career branched out into television. She did commercials. She did modeling campaigns for major brands like Mercedes-Benz. Her work allowed her to travel across the United States. She also traveled internationally. She visited countries like Japan and Greece. She visited Argentina, Italy, and Switzerland. She visited France, Jamaica, and Mexico. She traveled while pursuing different projects. Despite her beauty, talent, and dedication, her career plateaued. She never quite reached the fame she hoped for. But she did gain a loyal fan base. Her appearances at comic conventions kept her in the spotlight. Fans lined up for autographs and photos. Many of them had first seen her as the Barbarian Queen. They continued to admire her years later. Lana Clarkson may not have become a Hollywood A-lister, but she became an icon in her own right. She left a mark on a generation of fans. They never forgot her presence on screen. By the late 1990s, Lana was looking for new ways to connect with her audience. She wanted to keep her career alive. She had built a loyal fan base from her cult films. She decided to create her own website. Through it, she sold DVDs of her movies. Many of them were personally autographed. She kept in touch with fans on a message board. It gave her an income stream. It also gave her a sense of belonging and appreciation. She felt appreciated by people who still admired her work. But as she reached her 40s, Hollywood became a tougher place. Roles grew fewer. Auditions led to closed doors. It was no longer possible to support herself as a full-time actress. Facing these challenges, Lana made a practical decision. In January 2003, she accepted a part-time job. She became a hostess at the House of Blues. This was a famous club in Los Angeles. It was known for its live music and celebrity crowd. The position wasn't glamorous, but it allowed her to pay her bills. It also kept her close to the entertainment scene she loved. Her role was to welcome and take care of high-profile guests. She ensured they felt at home in the exclusive VIP areas. On the night of February 3, 2003, Lana went to work as usual. She had no way of knowing this would be her last night. This ordinary evening would mark the beginning of the end. That night, one of the most famous figures in music history walked in. This was legendary record producer Phil Spector. Their meeting seemed unremarkable at first. Yet, this chance encounter would lead to a dark tragedy. It would become one of Hollywood's darkest tragedies. To understand what happened, we need to look back at Phil Spector's life. He was born Harvey Philip Spector on December 26, 1939. He grew up in the Bronx, New York. His family was of Russian Jewish descent. They were middle class and close-knit. But when Phil was only 9 years old, his life changed forever. On April 20, 1949, his father locked himself in a running car. He ended his own life by carbon monoxide poisoning. The loss shattered the young boy. It left a scar that would follow him throughout his life. In 1953, Phil's mother moved the family to Los Angeles. She was hoping for a fresh start. By the age of 19, Phil was attending college. He met other people who shared his passion for music. Together, they formed a group called the Teddy Bears. Phil was the guitarist and songwriter. He penned a song inspired by his father's tombstone. The words were "To know him is to love him." That single was released in 1958. It became an unexpected hit. It climbed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 by December. Despite the success, lightning didn't strike twice. The group recorded a few more tracks, but none reached the same level of fame. By 1959, the Teddy Bears had dissolved. Phil drifted into isolation for a while. Eventually, he returned to the music industry. This time, he focused on producing, not performing. It was behind the studio glass that he truly came alive. He soon partnered with 2 other producers. They worked at a small label called Junior Records. But Spector's ambition was relentless. In October 1962, he bought out his partners. He took full control. From there he launched his own company, Phillies Records. Under Phillies, Spector produced 21 singles. They sold more than 13 million copies. He earned 9 gold records. By the age of 21, he wasn't just a success. He was a millionaire. His fortune was estimated at over $2 million. Phil Spector was now one of the most influential figures in American music. But as Lana Clarkson would discover, he had a darker side. Behind the fame and brilliance was a dangerous man. In his early days, he worked with some of the biggest names. This included Elvis Presley and Roy Orbison. His talent for shaping sound earned him a reputation. He was one of the most promising young minds in the industry. But the year 1963 truly changed his career. That year, he introduced the world to a new girl group. They were called the Ronettes. The trio consisted of sisters Ronnie and Estelle Bennett. Their cousin, Nedra Talley, was the 3rd member. Before Spector, they were called the Darling Sisters. With Phil, everything about their presentation changed. Their look and their sound were transformed. They soon became one of the most recognizable acts of the 1960s. Spector also unveiled his signature contribution. This was the wall of sound. This technique layered multiple instruments and voices. It created a dense, almost orchestral effect. It filled every corner of a recording. It was unlike anything people had heard before. It gave his music a larger-than-life quality. The innovation cemented his reputation as a genius. He was a pioneer in the studio. Many credit him with reshaping popular music. Over the years, he worked with celebrated artists. He produced for the Ramones. He produced for Tina Turner and Cher. He produced for John Lennon and George Harrison. In fact, Lennon and Harrison sought his expertise. They needed help with unfinished material. This was from the Get Back sessions. These songs would form part of the album Let It Be. Having Phil Spector on a project was a mark of prestige. But it came with a price. Behind the fame was another side. This side was dark, volatile, and often dangerous. Many accounts described him as controlling. He was abusive and frightening. His partners revealed he was violent and manipulative. He often carried a gun to intimidate them. This behavior wasn't limited to his personal life. In the studio, artists reported similar experiences. Members of the Ramones recalled a specific incident. He once pulled out a firearm and fired shots while working. Even John Lennon was shaken. Spector suddenly fired a gun at the ceiling during a session. His private life was equally troubled. Spector was married twice. At one point he adopted 3 children. Later, those children accused him of keeping them in isolation. They said he subjected them to disturbing situations. They were forced to act out inappropriate scenarios. He also fathered additional children with another woman. He never married her. By the early 2000s, his reputation was a strange mix. He was celebrated as a musical legend. But he was whispered about as a man no one trusted. On February 3, 2003, Spector walked into the House of Blues. Lana Clarkson was working as a hostess. He arrived with another woman by his side. He was clearly intoxicated. When Lana approached him, she didn't immediately recognize him. Some accounts say she mistook him for a woman. This error cut straight to his ego. He was a man who thrived on power and recognition. To Phil Spector, this slight felt humiliating. Realizing her mistake, Lana quickly tried to make up for it. Despite the busy crowd, she gave him extra attention. She ensured he felt acknowledged and respected. Other versions suggest something different. They say Lana recognized him instantly. She was especially attentive because of his stature. She might have hoped he could offer her a path back into the industry. Whatever the truth, the night passed. As closing time came near, Lana prepared to leave. But Phil had other plans. Before she could go home, he extended an invitation. He asked Lana to join him at his mansion for a drink. It seemed like a casual, harmless gathering. Lana Clarkson agreed to go. She stepped into the car. Phil Spector's driver, Adriano Duzza, took the wheel. Their destination was Spector's extravagant estate. It was a 33-room mansion on a hilltop. It was famously called the Pyrenees Castle. It was the early hours of February 3rd, about 3 a.m. The car rolled up to the gates. Lana and Phil went inside. Adriano, who spoke little English, waited outside in the car. His instructions were simple. Stay ready in case his boss wanted to leave again. For a while, the night seemed calm. But around 5 o'clock in the morning, everything changed. From the silence, a sudden, sharp sound cut through the air. Adriano instantly thought it was a gunshot. He froze, staring at the mansion. He strained to catch any sign of what was happening. A few minutes later, the front door opened. Phil Spector appeared. He was unsteady on his feet. He held a pistol in his hand. According to the driver, Spector muttered something. He said he believed he had killed someone. Terrified, Adriano picked up his phone. He dialed 911 to report what he had seen. Police officers arrived at the castle. They found Spector visibly drunk. He was behaving strangely. He refused to follow basic commands. He ignored orders to raise his hands. He seemed detached from the gravity of the situation. It took several tense minutes. Officers finally made their way inside. What they discovered was horrifying. Lana Clarkson was dead. She was slumped in a white chair. Her body was still. The fabric around her was stained with blood. She had been shot in the mouth. A firearm lay near her left ankle. The scene painted a chilling picture. Phil Spector quickly began shifting his story. He did not admit what he told Adriano. Instead, he insisted Lana had put the gun in her mouth herself. At times he suggested it was an accident. He said she kissed the weapon and it went off. Other times he hinted she wanted to end her life. None of his explanations matched the evidence. Police arrested him on the spot. Their search of the mansion turned up 8 more guns. They found blood traces in one of the bathrooms. The next day, February 4, 2003, Spector posted bail. $1 million was enough to walk out of jail. For a man of his wealth, it was hardly a challenge. He remained free for more than 6 years. The case made its way through the courts. In 2006, he married Rochelle Short. She was a woman close to him. She was deeply familiar with his personal world. Some believed the marriage was a strategic move. It might keep her from testifying against him. But it didn't stop the case from moving forward. The first trial began in March 2007. Spector faced charges of second-degree murder. In September of that year, it ended in a mistrial. The jurors couldn't reach a unanimous verdict. The following year, in October 2008, he was tried again. This time, the proceedings were broadcast on television. It captured national attention. Inside the courtroom, Spector was unpredictable. He changed lawyers multiple times. He clashed with his own defense team. He made strange declarations. He claimed Lana had chosen to end her life. He also admitted he took medication for schizophrenia. He was not diagnosed with the condition. He described himself as bipolar. He spoke of being his own worst enemy. He confessed to fighting demons inside him. As the trial unfolded, his dark past resurfaced. One of his sons described him as a psychopath. He recalled being just 12 years old. He and his brother were blindfolded. They were forced into disturbing scenarios. These were orchestrated by their father. 5 other women came forward with accusations. They said Spector pressured them into sexual acts. He threatened them with a gun. 2 of them had contacted the police at the time, but they later withdrew their complaints. In every case, alcohol played a role. The most damning testimony came from Adriano Dizza. The driver never once wavered in his story. He repeated what he heard that night. Phil Spector stepped out with a gun. He admitted he thought he had killed someone. After 9 days of deliberation, the jury reached a decision. The prosecution painted Phil as a dangerous man. He had a history of playing Russian roulette with women's lives. On May 29, 2009, Phil Spector was found guilty. He was guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 19 years to life in prison. There was no chance of parole. When the verdict was read, Spector showed no emotion. A reporter described him as completely still. His face was frozen. His voice was silent. He offered no reaction at all. Even in prison, Spector made headlines. He requested a divorce from Rochelle Short. He accused her of draining his $35 million fortune. He said she spent it on expensive cars and luxury clothes. She spent it on lavish trips. The divorce never went through. But the accusations made the news. He also maintained his bizarre persona. He gave interviews to newspapers and magazines. He posed for photos in oversized sunglasses and wigs. It was as if he was clinging to his eccentric image. But time and fate caught up with him. On January 16, 2021, Phil Spector died. He was 81 years old. Reports stated the cause was complications from COVID-19. He had contracted the virus 4 weeks earlier. He was rushed from his prison cell to a hospital. He was suffering from breathing problems. Doctors could not save him. Years earlier, in 2013, HBO produced a film about his life. It was 92 minutes long. Al Pacino portrayed Spector on screen. The case remained one of the most publicized in Hollywood history. It was fueled by his fame. It was fueled by the shocking violence behind Lana's death. For many who knew him, the outcome was not surprising. They had seen his dangerous side long before. They saw it before the tragedy at the Pyrenees Castle. Still, there was a sense of sadness. Someone once hailed as a brilliant innovator ended his life. His life was defined not by genius, but by darkness. It was defined by destruction. His legacy was forever tainted.